So I let my viewers rank Santa horror movies, which turns out was kind of a bad idea because you guys made some terrible choices. What is wrong with you? Just kidding, I love you guys. But still, now we get to go through this absolute dumpster fire of a ranking that I get to blame you for. All right, so the 5 Santa horror movies that I had you all rank were Christmas Evil from 1980, Christmas, Bloody Christmas from 2022, Santa's Slay from 2005, Silent Night from 2012, and rounding it out was Silent Night, Deadly Night from 1984. And there was like 2,500 votes on this whole thing, so, a decent amount of votes to kind of gauge what you all thought about these Santa horror movies. And yeah, let's just get into it. So coming in last place, according to you all, was Christmas, Bloody Christmas from 2022. Yeah, and this movie, I was actually kind of surprised that this was last, to be honest. I mean, this is a story basically about if you were blacked out drunk and you have this Santa Terminator just following you along on this journey, terrorizing you, massacring people left and right, and what that would all kind of feel like. And in the first half of this movie, I mean, there's not a lot happening here. We're getting to know the characters a little bit. We're basically following this record store owner. I think her name is Tori, and then the guy that works for her, his name's Robbie. They're flirting. Tori's talking about she's going to hook up with this guy or meet up with this guy from Tinder, and they're all roasting the guy because they know him. He's got all these kids. He's got like a backstory. They all know him. They're just making fun of Tori, but I think the banter between Tori and Robbie throughout the first half is good. I think it just feels natural. I think they're having fun with each other. There's like 5,000 F-bombs they're dropping. They're going to the bar. They're drinking. They're just having a good time. It kind of feels natural and feels like somebody in that situation would do on a night like this. Just go out, drink, just do whatever you want, which, like I said, there's not a lot happening in the first half of the movie, but regardless of that, I still find myself kind of, engaged and entertained and interested in this whole thing, right? But there is some gripes that I do have with this movie. So it's a robot Santa. So Santa, I guess these robot Santas that got recalled used to, their software or something had some sort of involvement with the Department of Defense. Maybe defense contractors, whatever the hell it is, and they got recalled. But one of them is in the toy store of Tori's friend, who they end up going to and, drinking with at one point in the story. And the robot in this movie, I mean, obviously because of budget concerns and other, creative reasons, it only kind of feels like a robot Santa in the first half. It's clearly a dude in a suit trying to walk like a robot, which is not a bad thing. It's a little bit more of a nitpick, but that's okay. And they're just adding kind of robotic sounds, thumping sounds when he stops and things like that. But this movie, I mean, if you've seen the poster art, I'm sure a lot of you have seen the poster for this movie. It's very bright. It's kind of dark, but has tons of greens and reds and all of that. And this movie definitely looks like that. It really does. And I actually like it. I like the colors a lot. Sometimes when there's an overuse of these Christmas colors, it feels kind of cheesy and a little bit forced. But I don't know. There's something about this movie. I like the way it looks. It looks, especially with the flurries of the snow and other things like that. This movie is very cold. There's a lot of snow. It's obviously dark through. I think it's dark the entirety of the movie, I believe. But man, what's great about this movie though is the kills. And I think every single one of them is practical, which is a lot of fun. I mean, Santa is absolutely massacring people left and right. I mean, he's using, an axe for a lot of it. He's using all kinds of stuff. His pure just Terminator strength. And also, speaking of the Terminator, towards the end of this movie, you do legitimately get a Terminator scene with this animatronic of the Santa, which has a lot of charm and I think is a lot of fun. There are some moments though in this movie that do feel a little tropey to me, which is not a big deal, but it feels a little bit overdone. It's not running away when you clearly should run away, relaxing in moments when the characters clearly should not be relaxing. I know this is the horror genre, come on now, but still, it got a little too much at times for me when it came down to stuff like that. I do think towards the end of this movie, the runtime does kind of drag a little bit. There's so many moments with the Terminator Santa where it's like, oh, okay, he's dead. No, he's not dead. Oh, no, he's dead. No, he's not dead. Oh, he's dead. No, it just keeps going and going. It's like, all right, let's just relax a little bit. That kind of drags a bit for me, but I actually think Christmas Bloody Christmas is a lot of fun. I only watched this movie recently, and I was surprised how much I enjoyed it, and I thought it was well done for how small this budget is. But you guys ranked it 5th. Last place. And really, it was only last place on this list. Okay, so YouTube, the way I did this whole ranking system was I did it on the whole YouTube kind of like community page where you guys can vote on certain things. But YouTube only gives you 4 spots to ever like do a poll on things. If they could just give us 5, that would be incredible, but they don't. So I had to do 2 different votes. I knew that one of these movies was going to be voted way high. So I left that off just from the very beginning, did the first 4 movies, and this movie was in last place. And then I redid the ranking, eliminated this one, and did the last 4 on the next voting system. And yeah, it shaped up just the way I kind of predicted it would, at least in the first spot. But yeah, so you guys said Christmas Bloody Christmas was number 5. And honestly, I disagree with this. I just don't think at all. I mean, you know, every single one of these movies has some fun moments. You know, it's got some good Christmas vibes to it and some good kills overall. But I mean, there's some movies on this list that are not as good as Christmas Bloody Christmas, in my opinion. I actually have this movie 2nd. I rank it number 2 out of all 5 of these movies. So yeah, I think you guys are full of shit when it comes to Christmas Bloody Christmas. But I still love you. So the big question next is, what is going to come in at number 4? Well, at number 4 is actually going to be Christmas Evil from 1980. You all voted Christmas Evil, the movie with the gritty 70s, 80s, you know, aesthetic to it. That kind of a feel with the grit and grime and the grain of the camera and just the way the movie looks and all of that. And yeah, I mean, there's something about that era. And there's something about it, especially with a Santa movie. I don't know, it just feels extra creepy. There's a lot of creepiness with this movie. This movie was better than I thought it would be. It spends more time kind of building this story that doesn't necessarily revolve around horror. So there's a lot of this movie that's not horror. It's just about somebody who's got some trauma in his past. Well, it's not even really like trauma. So, I mean, with that whole story, it's like, okay, I guess he was traumatized by, I mean, it's way different than like Silent Night, Deadly Night as far as trauma goes, in my opinion. So the movie starts out, Christmas Evil from 1980 starts out. This kid he's a little kid, so he probably doesn't really understand. I don't remember how old the kid is, but he sees his dad dressed up as Santa Claus. Maybe he doesn't know it's his dad. Basically like getting frisky with his mom. And he's like, oh shit. And then he cuts his hand or something. That part's kind of confusing in this movie, but so apparently that kind of gives him some Santa trauma. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've only seen this movie once, but still. So we follow this guy. He seems like a bit of a pushover. He's like a low-level manager at a toy factory. Obviously not a lot of, there's, admirable to work at a factory. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But like this guy, he probably didn't aspire to be in this position, but just kind of seems like a little bit of a pushover. A quiet guy, he's kind of separated from the rest of the crew, misses working on the line, but, one of those guys that seems kind of normal, but you're like, I don't know, something seems off about you. Do you have human skin lampshades in your basement? You might. And he's kind of like one of those guys. But what I like about Christmas Evil is this is the type of killer, and I think they portrayed this really well in the 70s and the early 80s. It's this guy who is a messy killer. These kills are not well thought out. So he's kind of like keeping track of who's been naughty in the town and who's been nice in the town. And he's trying to punish those who have been naughty after he just eventually loses it, after people in town are just kind of treating him like shit. But I like this, to get more on point, I like this idea of somebody, a killer who's impulsive. He's kind of messy. He doesn't do it all that well. He makes a lot of mistakes, grabs random things to pull off the kills at times. There's that one kill where he like puts his Santa bag and suffocates the dude in his bed, and then he's like, oh, how am I going to finish this off? This is not really working too well, and grabs. The guy has like a Christmas tree above his bed. His wife, or he must be really into Christmas. He grabs the star off of it and slits his throat. cool moments like that. It's just kind of messy. And towards the end of the movie, he's driving his van that they're looking, his van with like all the Christmas stuff painted on it. He's swerving all over the place. He's crashing at the very end of the movie. It flies out of the screen, but it's just kind of messy. He shows up to a church and just starts slaughtering people, this big crowd of people, and then takes off. But yeah, just kind of messy and impulsive. And there's something scary about that. Plus just the look of the guy, And like I said, maybe it has something to do with the look of the movie, the grain in it. But the look of this Santa, he's just kind of creepy looking. But it drags in the first half of it, definitely. So Christmas Evil, do I agree with you all having it number 4 out of these 5 movies? You know what? Maybe you aren't all completely full of it with this one in particular. Yeah, I'd put Christmas Evil number 4 on this list too. It's not a bad movie. It actually surprised me. But still, it kind of drags as far as some of these other movies go. Let's go into the top 3 now. Coming in at number 3, you all voted Santa's Sleigh from 2005. The wrestling Santa movie. That's in your face. It's loud. It's crazy. This movie, man. I mean, if you go from watching Christmas Evil to watching Santa's Sleigh, right afterwards, you're going to be like, holy shit, was I just thrown into an ice bath? Is this a polar bear plunge? What is going on here? Because this is completely different. Not only is it 2005, so it's going to look a lot different, but this movie, I mean, they ingrain comedy into almost every single frame that they possibly can in this movie. Now, whether it lands for you or it doesn't land for you, regardless, that's not the point. They are really trying to make every scene ridiculous, in your face, and make you laugh. And if it's the type of humor you like, and some of it for me, I do like, definitely. I mean, the movie starts off, actually a great intro. Caught me off guard. Like, I thought this movie was going to be way more low budget than it is. But in the intro, I mean, we've got kind of a stacked cast. We got Fran Drescher. We've got Rebecca Gayheart, James Caan in the intro. And I'm like, wait, are they going to stick around for the rest of this movie? They don't. But we get some good kills. And this is that moment where you probably recognize that clip of Santa doing the flip over the table. That's in the opening scene. But yeah, some good gore, some fun kills. And it's a fun intro that hooks me in. I'm like, all right, this actually might be a lot of fun, especially after watching some of the movies on this list are pretty dark with some fun moments too. But yeah, I mean, this movie is everything you would imagine a wrestling Santa horror movie would be. I already kind of talked about that. Like, it's loud. It's in your face. It's physical. Bill Goldberg is beating ass in this movie. At the end, he's showing off his muscles. He's got the cutoffs going. And that's what this is. I mean, at one point in the movie he goes to a strip club to punish the people in town who work at a strip club. And that's a whole other conversation for another time. They're just trying to earn an honest living, all right? Paying customers. And that scene is ridiculous, but also pretty damn funny. We cut to a scene with these 2 kids who are, they're maybe like 12. They're with their grandparents, and it looks like their parents too. And they're just the biggest brats you could possibly imagine, right? They're trying to portray that, and they're like, can we open our motherfucking presents now? And the grandparents are just like, oh, geez, how did the spawn of Satan come from our bloodline? And inside their presents, they explode, and they just blow these kids completely up, which is pretty funny. But like I mentioned earlier, they try to implement comedy almost into everything in this movie, even down to this one tiny little, it's like a 5-second scene where we're at the police station, and the cop who's at the front over the intercom, I don't know if that's a cop or if that's a volunteer or whatever the hell it is, but even that person, you look at their name tag and their name is Dick Zucker. Dick Zucker. You get it? You know what I'm saying? That is just an indication of where this movie goes. But yeah, Santa's Sleigh, like I said, not for everybody. If you like a movie like Bad Santa, you'll probably like Santa's Sleigh, which I do love. Bad Santa, all-time classic. But yeah, Santa's Sleigh is actually really fun. It's a movie that I'm definitely going to recommend to my brother. I'm going to send this to him in a text message and be like, hey, dude, if you haven't seen this, you and your wife might have a good time with this one. But do I agree with Santa's Sleigh being number 3 according to you all? Man, maybe I was full of shit when I said this in the introduction, because I actually do agree. I have Santa's Sleigh number 3 also on this list. Yeah, Santa's Sleigh is a lot of fun. I have it number 3 as well. So coming in number 2, this one surprised me. How did you all put this movie number 2? I don't know. Maybe you're just such a big fan of the original that people just, I don't know, for some reason liked this movie, but Yeah, number 2 is going to be Silent Night from 2012, the remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night from 1984. And this movie is all over the place. It does have some similarities with Santa Slay a little bit as well. There's some ridiculousness. They try to make you laugh. It's a little over the top at times. And there are some funny moments. I mean, in the introduction, we're following this Santa, and there's a guy who apparently hooked up with this married woman and gets wrapped up in like Santa's lights and gets electrocuted and his eyes pop. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's actually kind of fun. I'm interested in this. And, we're kind of meeting the rest of the people around town. And yeah, I mean, it's a Santa horror movie. So Santa's going to be punishing people who are naughty. So we're kind of meeting the people around town. Early on, we meet this girl who's just like the worst kid on earth. It kind of looks like, okay, maybe her mom is popping some sort of pills, like she's popping some Oxy or something else that she probably shouldn't be popping. And the girl comes up to her mom and just slaps the medication out of her hands. And you're like, okay, maybe her mom's an addict or something like that, and she's trying to get it stopped. No, that's the mom's heart pills. The mom is just trying to survive. And then this girl says something like, Mom, take me to the fucking mall. And you're like, okay, this is the worst kid ever, like I said. But don't worry, guys. Like 2 minutes later, Santa shows up and just skewers this kid. I think he electrocutes her first and then skewers her with the fire pitchfork thing. Pretty brutal. Yeah, they take it there with a kid in this movie. But this movie, though, I mean, it really has no charm that the original has, in my opinion. The cast is okay. We got Dr. Sam Loomis coming back, Malcolm McDowell from the Halloween, obviously the remakes and all that stuff. And he basically plays Dr. Loomis in this movie. He's a cop, though, but just a dumber character. And the main girl in this movie, too, you'll recognize her right away. I forget her name, but she's okay in this. Like, she's a decent actress, but her character seems really weak, and their reason for making her character so weak and she kind of folds in the pressure situations is because of trauma that she has and she's trying to get over. But as an audience, as somebody watching the movie, they put no effort into making us even kind of care about what's happened to her or her family or really anything like that. But a lot of people, I think, why you have this, number 2, I'm sure a lot of people who voted for this is probably just because you get some things from the original. You get the remake of the antler kill in this movie where the girl's hooking up with the guy, and it's right after the girl tells the guy that she's going to make Santa's sack a little lighter. They're role playing. We get the recreation, like I said, of the antler kill, but it just doesn't have the charm. Yeah, he technically puts the girl on the antlers like in the original, but I don't think he says punish or anything like that. It just doesn't hit like the original does. And yeah, I mean, the kills in this movie are pretty good, actually. Most of the kills on this list are solid overall. I was surprised. I thought we were going to have some really bad ones, but in this movie too, I mean, there's this one scene where Santa shows up to this porn shoot and just starts slaughtering people. The photographer who's kind of organizing the whole porn shoot, he puts like a scythe right through the guy's dick and then chases one of the girls. Of course, she's naked. She goes and finds herself in like a Christmas tree farm. Nobody's around though. It looks like it's like a post-apocalyptic world. She goes into the Christmas tree farm. She runs past a wood chipper. So immediately, I'm like, okay, I see where we're going here. And then she starts hiding behind the trees, and then you hear the wood chipper turn on. So what does she do when she hears the wood chipper turn on? She goes to investigate. She moves a little back closer to the wood chipper instead of running away, right? And of course, what happens to her is brutal. The kills in this movie are actually pretty good. But yeah, I mean, what's also weird about this movie is it's a really small town, I think, but everybody is dressed as a Santa. I swear half the town is dressed as a Santa Claus. So I'm thinking like, this is weird. I don't really understand that. There's also moments like at the end of the movie with Malcolm McDowell's character when he dies. Spoiler, this movie's not new though. But the killer Santa has a flamethrower and he has his gun pointed at him and just doesn't even shoot, just gets torched. And it's like, what are you doing here? Like I said, it's basically like Dr. Loomis from Halloween, but just dumber in so many different ways. And this movie, it's not the worst way to spend 90 minutes of your life or anything like that, but it is kind of a drag to get through, in my opinion. It's not that fun. The acting and the cast, I mean, the main girl and Malcolm McDowell are okay. The rest of the people in this movie are terrible. This is the worst acting, probably out of this entire list. Just if you averaged everybody else in the movie, yeah, there's some not great acting in the rest of these movies. But just if you take like all the side characters who do have little lines here and there, it's not good. It's pretty terrible. But yeah, and like I mentioned, Silent Night from 2012, the remake, it has no charm that the original has. So there you go. You guys said Silent Night came in at number 2. I have it last place because, yeah, like I said, it's mostly just kind of a drag to get through. All right, now coming in at number 1 by an overwhelming majority, you all clearly voted this movie, as I predicted, by a pretty much landslide to be number 1 out of these 5 movies, which is the cult classic Silent Night, Deadly Night from 1984. And this movie has more charm than probably all of the other movies combined. And it's not necessarily just because it's from 1984. It's how they made the movie with the music and the different settings. The toy store has become iconic. Some of the kills, some of just the images you see, right? The main character with the bow and arrow, the antler kill. And I mean, there's a lot of things in this movie too that are going to make you say, oh, okay, damn, that's kind of crazy. And the introduction to this movie will offend a lot of people. It was a lot even for me to take in the intro. But yeah, I mean, Silent Night, Deadly Night. I mean, I've always kind of got a place in my heart for this movie because it takes place in Utah. I'm very familiar with Utah, went to University of Utah, have a lot of family out there, all that deal. So I recognize a lot of like just where this movie was set. So that's a little cherry on top for me personally. But overall, I mean, this movie is a lot of fun. I mean, there's just so much charm to it, like I already mentioned. I love following our main character and kind of the origin story of this character, which is pretty unique for slasher movies, especially in this era. Like, just this origin story of how this killer came to be, what happened as an early kid, real trauma, definitely with a Santa that you could believe. And then he's spending this time, he's at an orphanage. He's got these nuns that he has to listen to every day that definitely treat him like shit. It's a very toxic environment. He's just been through a lot. And then, eventually being forced at his work to be the Santa at the toy store just sends him off. All the fake happy holidays and all that stuff just puts this guy over the edge. And then after it all goes down, I mean, it's just a lot of fun to follow this character through this journey. I mean, Punish, that whole scene with the antlers is great and is wild and all over the place. I love the scene with the sledders. It's nighttime, it's dark, these kids are sledding, and he just pops out of nowhere and decapitates one of them, and it's just a wild scene. But yeah, Silent Night, Deadly Night, I mean, this is a favorite amongst horror fans and is just a crazy movie with great Christmas vibes, a lot of iconic scenes and settings. Some of the other movies that I already talked about don't have that, don't have the emphasis on creating these really cool sets like this movie has. Yeah, I mean, it's Silent Night, Deadly Night. It is a brutal, dark at times, funny at times. It's easy to see why this movie all these years later is definitely a cult classic in the genre and has so many fans even all these years later. So yeah, I agree with Silent Night, Deadly Night being number 1 out of these 5 movies just because it just has so much charm, great kills, fun characters, hilarious moments that are going to shock you as well, and just a lot going on. So there you go. That is how you all voted these 5 Santa horror movies. Let me know down in the comments down below how you would rank this particular list. What do you think about these movies? What are some other favorites when you consider not just Christmas horror, but specifically like a crazy Santa horror movie? Thanks for watching, everybody. If you want some more content from me right now, go ahead and check out one of these videos next to me. Also, if you don't want to miss future videos, make sure you subscribe. That is the best way to do that. I have a Patreon as well if you want to check out some more content that is not available on YouTube anywhere. Thanks again, everybody. My name is Matt. Have a good holiday, Christmas, all that good stuff. And I will talk to you in the next one.